You're a Negro.
No.
I am your teacher. You are a Negro.
No.
Suppose I threatened to beat you. What would you say? Aren't you a Negro now?
No.
What are you?
I'm black and beautiful.
What is your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
Suppose I had some money in my pocket. Suppose I gave you $1 to say that you're an American Negro. This is money now. Money talks. Money talks. This $1. And if you don't say it, you don't get it. You're an American Negro, aren't you?
No.
You won't have any money. You know you need money, don't you?
Yes.
You need money to live, don't you?
Yes.
All right. All you have to say, Leon, is that you're an American Negro. Aren't you an American Negro?
Well, you make kind of a provocative comment in your new book here, Mugged, and I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminists, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked, because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children, and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans don't understand.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants, and we understand that not everybody, there are Native Americans in, but we understand in this country, that kind of self-deportation, making things so difficult for immigrants, for undocumented immigrants, that they have to leave, or the DREAM Act, vetoing, threatening to veto the DREAM Act, which is what Romney has said. I mean, and again, we have Governor Romney, who is basically taking a position that is anti-large and the fastest growing segment of the electorate.
And here's the thing, if Republicans don't do something with immigration, and if Republicans are so far away from Latinos, they're going to lose not only the election, they might lose the White House for generations.
The future.
And Texas to turn
That's why the Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics, because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But could I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both. When you have a big government giving out benefits for all sorts of things, then you have to care very much who the immigrants are.
But immigrants do contribute much more than what they take. Immigrants contribute much more than what they take away from the economy. $10 billion a year, according to the Academy of Sciences.
Exactly.
So it's great to have immigrants in this country.
Both legal and illegal immigrants are way more likely
to be on welfare than native-born Americans.
That is the problem.
Hello? What are you doing here?
What are we doing here? We came to settle down and live. Why?
Live? Are you going to live here?
Yeah. Why do you ask?
Are all of you going to live here?
Yeah. You got a problem with that?
Well, this is our land. You can't take our land.
Excuse me, your land?
Yes, our people's land. It belongs to us. We Indians have lived here for thousands of years.
Indians? What's that?
We are Indians.
There's no such thing as an Indian. We're all humans. Oh, geez, I didn't know that such ignorant bigots like you were still around. You really need to be educated.
This land belongs to our people.
Our land is your land, and your land is our land. We live in a globalized world now, don't you know? I can't believe you don't know that. It's 1612, for heaven's sakes. Are you still living in the 1530s or something?
We Indians came here before you. You can't take the land from us.
Are you racist? There are no lands for certain people. The earth is for everybody. We're all humans. Indian is just a social construct.
Yes, we might all be humans, but it's still our land. You white men can't steal it from us. You have no right to do it.
You are imagining things in your racist little mind. We are not taking anything from you. What's wrong if some of us live here in America? Don't you know we all have a common African ancestor?
It doesn't matter. You white men are not like us. We are Indians, and this is still our homeland.
You racist Indians are thinking too much in terms of us and them. You should just accept diversity. And if you do, diversity will be our greatest strength.
Can't you even see with your own eyes that we look different? How hard can that be?
Oh God, there is only one race, the human race. What on earth are you afraid of? Why would it be such a problem if we white people live here with you? The only problem here is your racism toward us.
You will destroy our culture and our way of life.
Define Indian culture, please.
What?
You just claimed that there was an Indian culture, so now I demand that you define exactly what that Indian culture is.
Okay. We eat corn in our village, and we have ceremonies when we dance around fire and a pole called the totem pole.
Well, in Europe we have these white Swedish people who eat falloon sausages and dance around a maypole every summer. We're not that different, you see. And what threat is it to your culture anyway, if we live here?
If you come here and dominate with your culture, it will change our way of life too.
No. If you're so scared that your precious little culture will be destroyed by us, let me assure you, you can dance around your pathetic totem pole all you want. No one will stop you from doing that. Besides, diversity is our strength. Why don't you know that?
Look here. If you white people come with this amount of ships every day like this, say 500 ships a day with 300 people aboard for 80 years, you'll eventually be a majority in our land.
Whites will take over America? Ha 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 ha! That is just a racist Indian neo-Nazi conspiracy theory.
No, it's not. You will be majority in our land in the future if present trends continue.
Even if we whites take over America, who cares? It's just skin color. You should not be making an issue out of skin color. After all, it is the person inside that really matters. We all bleed red.
It does matter.
America would become a little lighter in the future. Why would you make such a big fuss out of that?
It's not just skin color. We have different skull shapes and a lot of other things that are different.
Now you are starting to sound like a Nazi. We are 99.9% genetically the same according to scientific studies. There is only a tiny little genetic difference between us, really tiny. And like I said, even if we whites do take over America, your smart Indian mathematician here recently just told everyone that it won't happen for another 80 years. And you will all be dead by then anyways. Why waste precious little time caring about the future? You won't even be alive then. Enjoy your life. It's too short to go around full of hate. By 1715, we whites will have integrated into the society, and we'll all be Indians just like you.
It doesn't matter if you integrate into our culture. You are not one of us.
Just because we are white, we are not allowed to be Indians? That is so racist. Why did you shoot him?
Wow, didn't you see that? That was a Nazi who wants to kill 6 million Jews.
Oh, I see. Good shot, Lord Nelson. One Nazi down. I got a feeling here that it might be a lot of Nazis in hiding. I got that impression just by this conversation with that Indian chief. He kept using the terms us and them. Can you believe that he has a problem with us just because we are different? These racist attitudes make me ill.
Yes, I think your observation is spot on, sir.
You see, we all bleed red. So what's the big deal if you share this land with us?
Have you ever stood and stared at it, marveled at its beauty, its genius? Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
Did you know that the first Matrix was designed to be a perfect human world where none suffered, where everyone would be happy? And it was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost. Some believed that we lacked the programming language to describe your perfect world, but I believe that as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering. So the perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from. Which is why the Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization. And I say your civilization because as soon as we started thinking for you, it really became our civilization, which is, of course, what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus. Evolution. Like the dinosaur. Look out that window. You had your time. The future is our world, Morpheus. The future is our time.
Good afternoon. This is Rudolf from Germany. I am addressing today specifically Afro-American people. I might be probably the first white man, Aryan German man, who is admitting something to you. I took a long time to think about this video which I'm showing you, a very short one, about the white race. Many of you dark-skinned people, in America mainly, have had a suspicion for a very long time. White people are not really human. And this suspicion has been around for a long, long time. And like any suspicion which is around for a long, long time, there is a little bit of truth to it. I want to admit today to you that white people originating from Northern Europe are called not aliens, they are called Aryans. Sorry about that, my brain don't function so well today. These white people are not really human from this earth like black people are, Indian people are, Asian people are. Yes, they are all humans. We white people are actually a minority, and we are, let's face the truth, also called the tall whites. Not all of us are tall, not all of us are completely white, but in general, that's what it is. And as some of you may know, the tall whites are not really earthly human, but we're coming out of space, out of another galaxy. We are not human as the rest of the human race. We came here from another star, we white people, in order to control the world. We white people all have a secret code, a secret language under each other. We know, no matter how nice we pretend to be, we all stick together in order to control the other races, particularly the black race. And I am feeling so bad about it by now that I had to speak out here on this video and admit it. White people are not human. White people, including myself, all stick together, know the truth which they do not want to admit to you. White people are out of space. We come from another galaxy. We all know our home planet, which we don't want to reveal because we don't want to be attacked. And we have no good intention with you. We do not want to share our wealth with you. We do not want to share our knowledge with you. You have been mistreated hundreds of years ago, and this is very, very bad. And your chances in life to the most of you, many of you have no chance in life. You can sit and wait for work on a corner with your other friends, and work will never arrive to you. It's very, very hard, I know. And we rich people, we white people, we alien people don't want to share what we have with you, so you have a good time. This is my testimony in public. White people are from another planet. We white people all know it.
Morning. How you feeling? Look at that. Whew, getting a little toasty out here, huh? When was the last time you stopped to appreciate a good sunrise? Oh, that's right, you were born a vampire, so you never had the pleasure, have you? That's okay. It's all right. At least we're here together, share the moment. Which means a lot to me, by the way, really. I mean that. Because actually, you know, when you get to know me, I'm a fairly sentimental type of guy. Bit of an innocent, you might say.
Do what you want, Frost. Doesn't make any difference.
You just don't fucking get it.
You're never gonna be a pureblood.
Hold him.
You will never rule us.
Jesus Christ. Have a nice day.
Sorry, you old dog. You just got a little too long in the teeth.
What, man? That was funny.
Long tooth? Funny.
Did I tell you the one about the leprechaun with the 6 teeth?
You see? From God!
On the first day, God created the earth, and he saw that it was good. On the second day, God created man, and he saw that he was good. And God spoke to the people. You are so quiet. But the people didn't understand. Why are you so quiet? And God saw the people going crazy.
To any expectations, what you see is what you get. And worse yet, I can't give an explanation for why it's gray on your side. And better yet, I'll give you an indication for why you're feeling deprived. We'll never
new sunless tanners. Women flock to gorgeous new self-tanner. You know I'm going to say that again. Frenzy over new sunless tanners. Women flock to gorgeous new self-tanner. The story was done January 27, 2016, and it reads like this. The sunless tan, it is truly the one fashion that never seems to go out of style. Celebrities love it, doctors recommend it, and it has been the secret to a youthful glow for years. In 1923, French style icon Coco Chanel accidentally developed a tan while on her yacht in France. She later admitted that she was simply stayed in the sun tad too long, but it was too late. Her disclaimer failed to keep the look of tan skin from catching on like wildfire. Almost 100 years later, tan skin and that healthy sun-kissed glow is more popular than ever. In fact, most people now find that they like a bit of healthy glow all the time, not just at the peak of swimsuit season. So, is it possible to get that gorgeous and natural looking sun-kissed appearance without the sun's harmful rays? Look, we've all been embarrassed by using a sunless tanner that left us orange, streaky, stinky, or greasy and swearing that we would never use a sunless tanner again. Finally, a new generation of sunless tanners have arrived, delivering flawless and natural-looking streak-free tans. Modern research has recently provided us with the dramatically improved ingredients and highly effective formulations. These newest formulations of sunless tanners are painstakingly researched and precisely blended to provide a very natural and healthy looking tan. The days of fake tan are gone, and you can finally get an unbelievably realistic tan from these newest sunless tanners. Not all of these new sunless tanners are created equally. Here is how the best sunless tanners stack up. Now they're going to give you a list of these different brands. Now see, well, you out here think you got that white woman and she got that little bit of exotic to her. She's probably using one of these products.
Sorry, Cassie. Oh, sorry.
Trust me, Harry. You can trust me. Trust me, Harry. You can
Sorry, Cassie. Oh, sorry.
trust me, Harry. You can trust me. Trust me, Harry. You can
Sorry, Cassie. Oh, sorry.
trust me, Harry. You can trust me. Trust me, Harry. You can
Oh, sorry, Cassie. Oh, sorry.
trust me, Harry. You can trust me. Trust me, Harry. You can trust me, Harry.
Sorry, Cassie. Oh, sorry.
Trust me, Harry. You can trust me. Trust me, Harry.
Depends on the circumstances and whatnot. Sometimes it's just a simple case of self-preservation. They're letting that white person know, I'm not with him. Because if I'm with him, it ain't no benefit in that. If I'm with you, It is. Very simple. Because everything comes from you. It don't come from him. He's just running his mouth. If I'm going to get paid, I'm going to get paid by you.
Okay. Could you share?
Sure. You follow the logic in every situation. So you're not arguing with the person. You're arguing with the logic. And keep that in mind. It's not a personality contest. Because you're discussing the subject. The subject is the thing you concentrate on, not the personalities. You don't get caught up in the personalities. So if the black person says something in the so-called defense of the white person, well, you just keep asking the logical questions. Problems are solved by asking questions and coming up with correct answers. The black person says, well, I agree with the white person, Say, okay, well, why do you agree with what he's saying or she is saying? I agree because of, okay, because of what, and have them say why they agree. And then you look at what they're agreeing to and see if it's logical. If it's logical, you go with it, because you always go with the logic. And if it's not, you raise questions about that. You say, that appears not to be logical. And I'll tell you why. And then you tell them why. And then you move on, because what you're searching for is the truth. I don't care who's doing the talking.
Oh my god. Oh my god, this is it stained my brush. Okay. Let's just do this. Oh my god, the things I do for you guys. I'm just kidding. Okay, it's blending out really easily. It's pretty brown. It smells really, really good. This is that's my favorite scent right there. What is it? It's brown sugar, kind of. Oh dang. Should I put a little bit more? I didn't even put a full pump. Okay, that looks better. And my face is literally the whitest part of my body, so this is gonna be kind of funny. Oh my god, this better not break me out. Okay, first off, I can already tell, there's a difference. I don't know how well I spread that, but I guess we'll see. But I'm gonna wear foundation anyway, so if I did horrible on my face, yep. Okay. So I'm gonna start with my neck. I just use 2 pumps. Oh god, this looks so dark. Oh no. Should I put on my ears? I think so. I am so stupid. I don't know why I thought that, but I literally thought it was the glove to put it on. I guess I'm just really dumb. Hey guys, so
Clean fight. Shake hands and come out fighting.
Don't take this ass whipping personally.
Hey, how's y'all doing? This is Mr. Blows Your Minds coming with another thought-provoking topic. Today's topic, y'all, it's going to be a heater. Pass this one along, because I'm about to talk about something that a lot of us, some of us, most of us won't even acknowledge or even look at. What is the real problems that go on amongst us and why we seem to not be able to move anything forward? Maybe it has a lot to do with it. The hatred of color existence white supremacy. You know I'm going to say that again. The hatred of color, existence, white supremacy. Yeah, you know I had to touch it, y'all. It's a never-ending story. It's going to continue going on. Probably never going to be dealt with in the way that it should be dealt with, but it will be dealt with spiritually. We can see that. We can see everything lining up. We can see how this is all culminating to one side trying to get its ends of its mean, while the spiritual side is getting it to its ends of its mean. So, let's get down to this video. So, you have little Leon with his teacher. And his teacher is trying to, instill a certain demeanor and mindset. And this is what we have to do when we're young, or parents who have to do with their children when they're young. You have to inculcate in them a certain education to give them self-confidence, self-worth, right? And we can see that the teacher is trying to teach him the difference between terms, right? That you are a Negro. And little boys, no, right? So it's being taught that there's a term and this terminology of words that are being used that don't fit you, but somebody's trying to label you, and yet you must know who you are so that you are self-identified. And so as the teacher goes on and he's given different scenarios, if I'm your teacher, what if I beat you? You understand? Are you still going to say what you're supposed to say? And as a shorty and not really having life experience and just being taught a certain way, it was easy for him to say no. Then he puts into the equation money. He put the money into the equation, and he says, you need money to live. You're like, yes. You gotta feed yourself, gotta feed your family. If you want this dollar, little Leon, you are a Negro. He said, well, how you gonna live? If you want this dollar, all you have to say, Leon, is you are a Negro. Now, after all that steadfastness that the little Leon had did, then the equation of money, and he went into his brain, and you see it on his face as like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to answer this? Because I want to take the stance on who I am, but also I want the dollar. And see, that's from a little child. Now, we have grown people out here to this day. Some of you might be listening to me. I'm not saying that people are not supposed to survive, but that equation of have to deal with what your stance is to the economics that somebody else has the control over you to manipulate you to have to fall under their whims to take a low road. Many of us doing it. I mean, just recently I just seen the article in news or the storyline of what this woman who I'm just going to say that she is sick, man. And I know a lot of people out here, they don't really want to talk about it and trying to overshadow it. But I believe this woman is really sick. She disfigured herself. I don't have to say her name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. She disfigured herself to the fact that she don't even look like how she used to. So this analogy here would be perfect, as in to hear somebody that a lot of people deem that this woman was a natural, round the way, beautiful looking female. And most of my sisters are. Majority of my sisters are. But for some odd reason, white supremacy does something just like the dollar does something to little Leon. What it does is it somehow throws a monkey wrench into your mechanism of thinking and how you take your stance, what you believe in, and your confidence, and it rearranges the whole house. It's like having a relationship with a person after some period of time, and one person decides to move into the other person's home, and then when that person gets in, this person starts rearranging things and trying to make it more liking to their taste. Now it's the person whose house you move into, if they don't comply to it, they have a say-so to say whether they're not. But no, white supremacy is like the person coming in, rearranging it, and you have no choice but to accept it. And so when it keeps permeating people day in, day out, 365, 24 hours a day, what you see Little Kim is a actual visual, I mean, just, it is what it is, man. It's like T.I.'s wife getting the blue eyes, you know what I'm saying? And you seeing a lot of sisters out here with this blonde hair. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, the sickness is getting overwhelming to the fact that it's like, man, our plate is too full. Our plate is so full to the fact that it's going to be overwhelming and overburdened on the people who are out here who are trying to bring some kind of awareness, some kind of knowledge, trying to bring you back to a state of mind when a lot of them are just walking dead. And how do we bring them from the dead? Is this the analogy used in those scriptures about a Christ-like figure who can actually get people in that state who are dead to raise them from the dead? Is that what that's really talking about? Instead of maybe just one individual, but the individuals who are Christ-like, having that anointing spirit to raise dead from the dead? Is that what this is about? Because I can't see us bypassing, overlooking, and turning our heads from people who are truly just sick, not because of their own, but it's because of a mechanism, a working that has been implemented. And see, the problem is white people do not like to look at themselves as a whole. They try to separate themselves as if they're different from that which implemented the system from the beginning. You understand? And they all want to try to act as if like they have no, maybe not personal, but as a group, you are connected to it. And again, until you see these organizations and people going out here fighting against it, which we don't see, then don't come trying to separate yourself to make yourself, I'm the good one versus the rest of them. Because in the totality of race, that's what it means. Grouping. We didn't create that. You created it. And so of your creation, the monsters that you're creating, the sickness that you're creating, all this is a culmination of the inwardness of yourself being externalized by the people you affected. Should I say that again? Or did you get it already? I need not say it again. And so a little boy who hasn't even got a chance to experience the world, but he understands the mechanism of that dollar and the purchasing power that he, even though it may be something, minuscule as candy and, toys, but he understood the equation. And so that's what our people have been dealing with. Once you take away the dollar, you still have the white supremacy machinations still operating. And you cannot extricate that because it's like the dollar. It's a necessity in order to function. Those who are outside of the box, self included, have the hardest time traversing in this system because you are in opposition to it. You do not fall in line with it. And as we just seen recently, that one who fought for his own rights, his own property for 18 years and finally get it and didn't even get a chance to enjoy it because that which he fought wanted it back because you're not able to have the power. And this is what the underliningness of this whole thing is about. But we're trying to act as if that's not what it is. And we have some people who are part of the race who will act as if like, well, I'm not, and I don't have no association, and you're just being evil and hateful. And wait a minute. We're the people in the rain. You're the person with the umbrella blocking the rain from you. And the only reason why a lot of you now are starting to try to act as if opening your eyes to realizing that there's a disparity in this country only because it's including you is because your white card has been revoked. Your white card has been revoked. And so because your white card is being revoked, now all of a sudden now you want to be trying to nickel and dime in and act as if like, well, we're just like you. It's really not us. It's the government. The government is just like saying the cliche when they talk about guns don't kill people. People kill people. Well, let's put it like this. Government don't do this to people. It's the people in government who is the majority that is like whom? Answer that question. Who are the majority people in the governments? Who are the ones running everything? You're talking about the handful of people that you say of color. So when you say government, just because of a handful of people who a system that has been running for over 300 years, and we're to sit here and try to say, well, you know what? We all have to be inclusive. It's like how you hear these people say when they talk about the environment and how the environment is so polluted and all this, toxic and chemical, and they want to say, we. Where's this we? We didn't do anything. It is you who've done all this. But you want to be always inclusive because you never want to take the responsibility for what you have created. This is your main problem. You do not want to accept the responsibility of what you cause. You always want to be deflected. You always want to put on some, and I'll get to that. I better not talk to that yet, but I will get there. But I'm going to use that anyway. It's like putting on sunscreen, the sun blocker. You want to reflect off of you so that you're not getting it. This is the major sickness amongst you. Non-responsibility, and find every avenue to put it upon the victim. And some people say, wait, why y'all always want to act like y'all the victim? No, what do you call it then? What do you call the situation? Huh? What do you call it? Well, let's take what the second discussion was about. Now, you've seen Ann Coulter. Now, I'm not in agreement to Ann Coulter. I'm not into this whole politics aspect of things because I understand the real underlining to it and what y'all really use it for. And those who play the game, again, you're just a figurehead in a mechanism that is about the duration of an agenda. That's just it. Bottom line, nothing else, nothing more. But that's how you try to portray the game of democracy and government and politics and voting. Well, we know the true underlining, those who really understand. A lot of you go to school and you think that because you read and got a document saying that you are educated and that you're really going to make some real changes. Remember that cliche, change you can believe in? Well, that change didn't do nothing but a facade and a mirage. So all that ended up happening. A mirage and a charge. So you have Ann Coulter at this little round table with that Stephanopoulos and they were sitting there having this discussion about civil rights. Now, you know what's funny is civil rights, accordingly, were the people who were disenfranchised, enslaved, and had no rights in the country. Right? But Ann Coulter brought up a point. Her point was so strong and so truthful that, did you see how they deflected? Like, again, if you watch my video when I talk about white gibberish and the Piers Morgan and that Alex Jones had that conversation, and every time he got on that black topic, he just went over it like it. We all know. We know. We're not going to deal with that. You understand? And that's what they do. When they have to deal with you and your issues, because it's so grand of the atrocity, and repairing you would be like, saying, for instance, analogy would be, if you had a car, maybe your car is 10, 12 years old, and then you got into a collision with a brand new, let's say, Bentley, right? And you demolished that car. Your insurance that you probably had on your car, liability, could not cover the entire amount of this brand new car. So somewhere down the line, you're going to have to be sued to come out of your pocket to cover it, because the insurance is only going to say the policy only covers so much. Well, that's what white people are saying. The astronomical amount of money that they would have to pay back for the repairing is so astronomical that they would have to be thinking in this term.
I mean, if it was up to me, I'd give you jigs just enough money to function. So when I see you guys with the fancy suits and cars and nice houses, and I'm living in a fucking hovel, I mean, that bothers me. So what do you say, Ray? We got a deal or what?
Now see, that's how they would have to look at it. They know that if they ever gave you the opportunity, and because they waited so late in the game, that now that you're conscious, you're waking up, you're starting to finally get into that mindset of understanding that how we have to become more economic, black economic, unifying, communizing, owning. If you gave that money today, oh no, that what Chappelle did, and talk about how if you gave black people reparations, that the first thing they do, you're gonna have some of the sick ones out here who do that. We know that. We know that a lot of them, but there's there's another portion in there that's gonna take that money, and you're gonna never get them back in that web again. And that's what they fear the most. Never gonna give you that, because they should have given it already when you still were all majority non-knowledgeable. Now that we're knowledgeable, you definitely ain't gonna give us that money now, are you? You're not gonna give that money. And there is a clause in there that I've talked about before that I tell you why I think they would never do it. It was part of the clause when they did what they did, when they did the transferring. So anyway, let's look at that 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Now, if you go back in 1908, the Supreme Court ruled in the Berea College versus Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, that the segregated schools were not violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. Now, what you had is you had Justice David Josiah Brewer. He wrote the majority opinion on that, right? Now, he says about that 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment Constitution of the United States were adopted for the protections of colored race. Not races, colored race. Only that one race, that was the people who were what? A part of the atrocity of this land. and their primary purpose was to establish absolute civil equality. I'm going to read that again. It's what the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment was originally for. The primary purpose was to establish absolute civil equality. That is, to place the colored race in respects to civil rights upon the same basis as the white race. Now, to make civil rights was to give it a balance, that the same rights that you as a white race have, that black race was to have equally. Don't talk about no immigrants. This is black and white. This is where the atrocities is lying in the lines there between the white race and the black race. Right? That's where it fell at. Now it says, in respects to civil rights upon the same basis as white race, but the effects of the 14th Amendment is not only to secure equal rights to the colored race, but to protect the white race also in the unmolested enjoyment of all its rights of persons and property. This is a black and white issue. But Ann Coulter was trying to make the point that you got feminist groups, gay right groups, and then they have come together to now try to back the immigration rights, but everybody has forgotten who the original civil rights was for. And so when Stephanopoulos, whatever the hell his name was, Snuffleupagus, whatever the hell his name is, he said Ann Coulter was commandeering. He said, we use the word commandeer. Now, for those who don't know what commandeer, I'm going to break it down for you. Commandeer means to seize, to take possession of, to expropriate, to assume, requisition, to confiscate, to impound, help oneself, hijack, kidnap, steal, rob, rape, pillage, ravage, strong arm. You understand? To strong arm. So these groups who stepped in front of black folks and somehow step over the boundaries and try to make, and that's why you see a lot of people say, well, how's these groups acting as like civil rights over according to what, like their issue is greater than the people who this whole is crazy, man. It is crazy, and it is a unifying thing to prove that I don't care who y'all think y'all is, regardless to what stance you take on, all of them are against us, period. They prove it time and time again. Now, you may have black women who jumped in the feminist group or a community or society or institution, or whatever you want to call it, but they were not understanding in totality what that was about. You may have people of other nationalities and races who are gay that is under the umbrella of that. But again, who was the one really setting that up? That wasn't foreign or other races sitting there putting that through law, and that wasn't them. That was white folks doing all that. So these ones that didn't have any real rights as being white, because again, white is about status and privilege and economics, and a lot of them don't fall under that. Some of them just get the privilege of it. So they found a way to take what everybody is not allowing the blacks to get, and we come up with this so that we can get it. So that's why you heard her say about those liberals. The liberals treated blacks like children, like Leon, right? Give a little chicken dinner. Get us to vote in. Give us a chicken dinner. Give us a turkey on Christmas. Give us our children some backpacks with a pencil in it, right? Treat you like children. Promises we can't keep. Remember that? Right? That's what they do. That's what the democraticness has been doing to you. Promises they can't keep. Now, according liberals, right? According to the meaning of a liberal, is open to new behaviors or opinions and willing to discard traditional values. Huh? I'm going to say that again. Open to new behaviors or opinions and willing to discard traditional values. Now, the traditional value in this is that traditionally civil rights was about whom? And to give equalness to them. How do you jump over them and get rights that you got to get in the back of the line? No, because you have the funding, the economics, because of your white base. But since blacks is totally black, and then you have somehow weeded out the separation between that woman and the man. So if the woman who is getting more education and getting more of the dollars, more than the bottom part of the males in the black community, then now you taking that economic base and you put it in the feminine base. And this is why they didn't understand that. So when you said black, when you start talking about black civil rights, it's basically left for the black man. You dig? And then most of the successful black men, whether they play in sports or some entertaining or that, they became in another class. So they didn't look. So look who's left with the bag. That's what ended up happening here. And so it's funny how there's an article, and I'm going to read this article, the breakdown. It says about how this black family was broken down, right? So let me pull this up. It's about how liberal policies destroyed the black family. It says the piece has been adopted from Crystal Wright's new book, Con Job: How Democrats Gave Us Crime, Sanctuary Cities, Abortion Profiteering, and Racial Division. It is well known how in 1965, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Assistant Secretary of Labor to Democratic President Johnson, warned that black families was on the verge of a complete breakdown. Because of growing illegitimacy rates, in 1963, the out of wedlock birth rate for whites was 3%, and for blacks, it was 23.6%. Moynihan was part of a generation of Democrats who cared about lifting blacks up into the ranks of equal opportunity with whites. Back in the days before Democratic parties became completely morally corrupt, in his 1965 Negro Family, The Case for National Action, Moynihan observed that because more blacks were being born into unmarried homes, more blacks were becoming dependent on welfare to survive. Then, as now, blacks represented only a small percentage of the United States population, but a disproportionate percentage of people relying on public assistance. At the center of this tangle of pathology, as Moynihan called it, was the weakness of the family structure among blacks. Once or twice removed, it would be found to be the principal source of most of the aberrant, inadequate, or antisocial behavior that did not establish but now serves to perpetuate the cycle of poverty and deprivation. Ever since, the problem has only gotten worse. Quote is, the majority of black babies are being born to single mothers as a prescription for a life of poverty and crime. The majority of black babies are being born to single mothers, a prescription for a life of poverty and crime, and despite the warnings that have sounded off loudly for over a half a century. Democrats have done nothing to stop blacks, the most steadfast constituents, from having babies they can't take care of. This problem has perpetuated itself for generations, producing generational poverty amongst blacks. If blacks live truly matters, as Democrats shout at the top of their lungs, why don't they promulgate policies that encourage blacks to get married before they have kids? Blacks voting overwhelmingly for Democrats over the past half century is the quintessential definition of political suicide. But what's bad for blacks translated to high rates of returns on investments for Democrats. Marketing the no baby daddy or no baby daddy syndrome to blacks has translated into votes, lots of votes, approaching 100% from blacks over the past half century. And the black family has been dismembered in the process. Like the fetuses Planned Parenthood chopped up to sell for profit, Democrats don't quit while they're ahead. No, the donkey party doubles down on evil. In his 1992 acceptance speech for Democrat presidential nomination, Bill Clinton declared, "Government doesn't raise children, parents do, and you should." Clinton meant to say, if you're white, I expect you to raise your kids, because Democrats have made it their priority for society to normalize the idea that the federal government should be responsible for parenting blacks and their children. Neither Clinton nor any Democrat president since Johnson has done anything effective to ask black Americans as a race to take responsibility for raising our kids. No greater or more glaring example of liberal profiting politically off of black people's misery can be seen than the Democrats' refusal to address the illegitimate birth rate spiraling out of control amongst blacks. More black babies are born out of wedlock today, 72%, than in married homes. That's dramatically worse than when Moynihan initially raised the issue, when it was 23%. Thanks to 50 years of encouragement by the Democrat Party. In other words, in America today, it is rare for black babies to be born to married parents. Black fathers are simply not part of the black family equation. Think about that. A few years ago, my mother tutored a 4-year-old black girl in pre-K in Richmond, Virginia public school. It was a part of an after-school program organized by her church outreach ministry. One afternoon in February, my mother was explaining to the little girl the meaning of Valentine's Day. Helping the child make a card for her mother, my mother told her that she was going to give Valentine's Day cards to special people like her husband and her children. The little girl looked up at my mother in disbelief, asking, "You can have a husband?" Slightly shocked and a little taken aback, my mother simply responded, "Yes." It's a sad state of affairs when the word husband is a foreign word to a little black girl. A few weeks later, around Easter, the little girl asked my mother again, "Miss Wright, you have a husband?" "Yes," my mother responded. "Husbands, friends, they're all the same," replied the little girl. No, they certainly are not all the same, but the little girl probably had gone home and asked her single mother what a husband was, and her mother had told her that it's difficult to have a conversation with a 4-year-old about the importance of marriage. But the problem is that the little girl will grow up with her mother's message that husbands are just the same as boyfriends. Based on the statistics, she will likely follow her mother's bad example and have a baby out of wedlock. Women having babies without father isn't just a sign of moral collapse of our culture, it's hazardous to the child. When a child is born into a single-parent home, the chances of that child growing up in poverty are much greater. According to a Brookings Institution study published in 2009, if a person graduates from high school, works a full-time job, and waits until 21 to get married and have children, his or her chance of succeeding in life and becoming members of the middle class rises to 76%. If a person doesn't finish high school, doesn't marry, and have a baby before the age of 21, his or her chance of becoming poor soars to 74%. One of the anti-poverty solutions the Brookings study recommended was for the federal government to advocate policies that strengthen families, such as programs to reduce unplanned pregnancies for teens and 20-somethings. The Brookings researcher seems to have understood that the breakdown of the black family has been the main driver of the chronic wealth gap between whites and blacks over the past 5 decades. The lack of intact families among blacks lead to a lack of education and jobs, which translate into higher rates of crime and government dependency among blacks. Eureka! You don't have to be a neurosurgeon to see that a child born to an unmarried teenage mother isn't going to have a rosy future in life. The conclusion of Brookings research are obvious, but Democrats continue to ignore the plain truth. Back in 1965, Moynihan was pelted with virtually criticism for telling the truth about black America. Things have gotten worse since then. So, that was this article written March 29, 2016 by Crystal Wright, GOP Black Chicks. I think that's what that is here. That's a Daily Signal for those who might be looking for that article. Now, that's what Ann Coulter was trying to show. She was showing that the liberals, and based on the terminology of the definition of a liberal, that the traditional values, which was family, which if you go back in the 60s and 50s and 40s, black families had a nuclear tie of mother and father and family support system, understand, and an agenda to be educated and trying to be productive people in society. So the dismantling of that is like saying, for instance, if you're thinking that just because Democrat versus Republican is like they're two different parties, but they both have the same agenda. They're just two different wings with two different ideology, but they have the same agenda for us. And we can see that we've been manipulated through it and seeing how the espionage of it has broken us, severed us, and we're trying to somehow put these pieces back together. So here's a white woman who definitely knows, and a lot of them try to make her a loom, and sometimes she do say some things that are crazy, but on this particular part, she's on point here. Civil rights was made for black people in this country. So why is there this gold rush to try to bring every person from every other nation, to bring them here, as it was stated in this conversation, that as she stated, that majority of them was be on welfare. Not all of them going to be productive so-called immigrants, not citizens, but immigrants. And so if you have people who you already have here, what sense does it make to not provide them or have them, somehow making some kind of situation or institutions where these people can be re-educated so they can be productive and not have, which they say, white people like to say, a victim excuse? Why is resolving the issue bringing other people outside in? Because you are trying to destroy the people. Let's quit playing. Quit acting like y'all trying to act like you really concerned and care and giving food out to the homeless, and we give water, and we go into other countries and we're trying to. That's a lot of bullshit. The whole agenda for you is to demise black people. That's what you're doing. Who y'all think y'all fooling? You come out there with your ministry work and you go and proselytize all people in black communities and act as if that all black people need to be saved by your ministry, when you don't proselytize your own people. You ain't down in those white communities standing on the corner talking about you need Jesus. No, for some odd reason they don't need Jesus, but we need Jesus. No, take that scripture where it says, don't look at the thorn in my eye without looking at the thistle in your own eye. First learn how to extract the thistle or the thorn in your eye, then come tell me how to take the thistle out of my eye. Because otherwise you're a hypocrite. And that's what y'all are. You mostly are just hypocritical because you like to always deflect. Again, that's your whole tactic. You're vampires, right? Vampires, that sun, which is that truth, and hitting you, burn you up. You're running and hiding. You won't deal with that. So what you want to do is reflect it off and try to find, and then you want to try to use science, and you want to come up with all this stuff to try to say the reason why. Well, the reason why your life is so hard is because, one, at least if you get a high school diploma, right, and if you had a little not bullshit ass job, that your chances will at least be a little better than if you didn't have one, right? But let's just take this Brookings institution, right? The Brookings institution is doing the survey, right? It's trying to tell you, or the survey, or the one that's doing the research to tell you the statistics of it. But then you got the Rockefeller Foundation is one who gave the education. Once you do your research and find out who these groups is, then you know what the hell I'm talking about. Then you know what the agenda is here. You're good with your hands. Don't use your brain. That's what they, Just be complacent with just having a meager. Just know your role. Be in your place. That's what you got to do. Don't think high. Just think. Just be complacent. Take this. Justice is slow. Yeah, when it comes to y'all, it's very slow. It is or it's not. But this whole process of paper shuffling and setting up, and that's y'all game. That's what y'all do. You understand? And so this thing of this liberals is treating black people like children. It's kind of like those who participate in these holidays, right? And when you go to, again, according to this whole story they just gave us, right? The only house we would be going to is Big Mama house, because Big Mama ain't even got a man, right? Big Mama ain't even got a man. So everybody, oh, Big Mama, like Big Mama ain't had no man to get Big Mama children, right? So anyway, so you go to Big Mama house for the holiday, and you got two tables. You got adult table and the children table. Well, that's how this politics shit be dealing with black folks. Black folks are sitting at the children table, eating a motherfucking Happy Meal and shit, while they're at the big table eating all the delicacies and drinking the wines and smoking the weed and, you know what I'm saying, having a good time, and they got you a Happy Meal with a little toy, a little bit of fries, and a couple little nuggets. Be happy with that. Be complacent with that. We having grown folks talk over here about you. Just be cool with that. You all right? You all right with that? Just be cool with that, because that's how they doing it, right? So they change behaviors or opinions. Now the behavior is that, again, feminist movement, gay rights. The traditional way of that whole civil rights was about us, but somehow somebody else got to jump, leap, hurdle over our agenda. And then they'll go back and they show in the civil rights and say, well, look, this person was gay with Martin Luther King, and there was some feminists and but that's not what it was about. It's not what you're supporting it, That just shows you how you had an agenda. You were only supporting it because you were only trying to get Piatt to use it to give you some leverage. Y'all don't like truth, man. You don't like truth. You don't like it. I don't care. We in time of truth. So we see the Democratic policies have been harmful. Even throwing somebody in there who supposed to be looking like you, supposed to walk like you, talk like you, but don't act like you. And then he had a nerve to be talking about something. You need to put down the Xbox. You need to put down that fried chicken. You need to get some sleep at night and sit down and tutor with your children. Nigga, please. Nigga, was that how they got down in Honolulu? Or did they do that shit over in Indonesia? Because you don't know shit about here. Quit talking that bullshit. You understand? And that's the problem. We be letting people come talking to us any kind of motherfucking way. Nigga, you ain't got no card here. Don't run in that shit acting like, you know what I'm saying, that whole facade and that whole game shit. Because that's what that shit is. Right? So she goes on and she says, you know, she started to talk about why that white people need to really address the situation instead of trying to influx with immigrants. Why not take care of what we should be have to? And she kind of stumbled because she didn't really want to say that. Now she white, but again, she still had to be apprehensive about what she said because, you know, they, even though they try to be I'm so right and righteous and good and I'm not like the others, but they still don't go gun ho. They not gonna go gun ho. They know if they, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of like those societies. You say the wrong thing, right? Advocate, but you got to make that stance because, again, sometimes your job is a Democrat. So you got to make it appear as if you're trying to support when we know the real agenda behind what's going down. So she goes and says about, in so many words, she's talking about reparation. Now, reparation just to redress, to amends, to make atonement, to the redemption of it, the indemnity of it, the solitude of it, the reimbursement of it, the refund, the recoup. She says for slavery and Jim Crow laws. That's two things. Slavery, and after slavery, you put on the Jim Crow laws. You don't owe black folks for nothing. You don't owe them nothing. And then do you see how slickly, when she starts pouring this down, he goes into and says, well, you know, we're all immigrants. See, deflect that off of that. Nah, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that, man. We're all immigrants, and because we're immigrants, so what about immigrants who come in here? They should have the same. But you don't owe them. That's what she said. You don't owe them. You owe them. We have a legacy of slavery here. See? That's white supremacy. All right, so white supremacy, right? So when you look at what they've tried to do, and a lot of people who are into a certain type of education, they believe that science is the all be all. And I'm not saying that science does not have a answer to the equation. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is science is based on, and the way that the European had concocted it to have an outcome of his outlook about his desire to be the first. I'm going to say that again. Science is used by the European to make the conclusion of your findings to be his desired point, so that it gives validation to him saying that he is the first of his existence, or the first to exist as this culmination of evolution of this fine product. You understand? And so let me show you a point here, because you got to remember that Ann Coulter had talked about the Indians. And then also you've seen in the clips was showing that how when the so-called Indian met the white man and the white man met the Indian, they gave you a scenario. But the way the scenario came out, this is the mindset of the white man. Don't get it twisted. That's how he look at things. You understand what I'm saying? Here was the Indian telling him how that if you and your people are coming to invade and live on our land, to infringe, right? You're infringing upon our rights, our liberties, right? As our land that has been given to us. So the land we have been residing on for, generation upon generations. And then the psychological manipulation that the white man is using is, again, has the way he always does, which is what? He tries to make that your point of validity is really not valid, but then he generalizes it to give him validity. But he does have the agenda, because once he used, as he says in the clip, diversification would be our strongest right. That's where they thrive at. A lot of people don't understand that. They thrive on diversity because they don't bring anything to the table. Have you ever heard that if all the nations, if the world had a picnic, right? And every nation was to bring something from their nation to, right, the picnic, then what would the European bring? Exactly. You understand? So diversity allows him, as in that conversation that took place was, are you saying that we as whites can't be Indians? We can't, partake of your culture and become like Indians? He said, but there's a difference. You're not like us. There's still a difference. And this is what they will ignore, right? But when you flip side it to the white supremacist part, there's no problem with that being them just white only. I mean, just look in the history of America, where you can see the symbols that they used to have white only. Right? When does that mentality ever go away? And for a lot of people who think that, man, you kind of always reiterating and going over this, we're beyond that, we're past that. You may not see the signs anymore, but that don't mean that the mentality don't still exist. Because the one thing that a lot of you have never asked yourself is, what made it go away? Who had the power to make them revert their mindset? No one. They just changed the game. So the game that was being played here between the white man and the Indian was to make him feel like he was being racist towards them. That this thing that you're talking about, us and they, is nothing. We're all the same. We're human. But how is it that he doesn't see that on his side, looking in the other direction? Because that's a trick. That's his tricknology. You understand? That's what he does. And so one thing is, when you know history, and then the fact that they even tell you that these people were Indians is a misnomer to the highest. You understand? It's because how is it that a man that is claiming, one, if you know the history of this Colombo cat, he married into a family that the father supposedly had been a cartographer, right? Map maker, right? Geologist, right? And then picked up the trade and learned from him, and plus had books, a bookstore, supposedly, right? So now, accordingly, he was supposed to be making a trek to Cathay. So now, how does a man who's supposed to be knowing this and somehow leaves from Spain and just keep heading west, but never somehow gets back east, and then the people that he meets, he's going to, put his flag on the moon and then name these people Indians. And yet, once they figure out, according this is the way, they're going to try to contrive it, is to make it seem that, he never got to India. But we're not going to have a problem with still calling these people named Indians, right? So when you heard Ann Coulter say that the Indians came from somewhere else, there's a mystery in there that somebody ain't telling. Because, see, they wanted to try to go with this whole hypothesis of talking about they came through the Bering Straits. And if you understand the map and look at the map and then you see how they had to traverse and get down and get on in South America, they didn't do all that. They didn't go through, you had to go through China, get through Russia, right? Then get through Canada. You understand what I'm saying? It's a lot of tracking. And then you're talking about people who came from a climax that did not have to wear the kind of clothing that you were going to need to trek through those other places. So why did they not turn back? So they didn't come from that way. But we know that's what they want to keep telling you. And the more they keep reiterating a lie and doing it for so long, after a while, people start to believe it because they don't doubt it, because they start not to question the fact that they think that you know everything when your whole facade of your existence has always been to a deception. You've always been trying to tell people what they are and what they are not according to how your mentality is. Remember one time I had a conversation with these two European people, and I asked the question, I said, could you ever live in a world where it was not white thought, white way, white philosophy, white definition? They looked at me and said, and the white guy was like, I won't even answer that. I know you couldn't answer that. Because, see, it's funny how you give these so-called IQ tests, right? And these so-called tests that evaluate so-called your, knowledge or your intelligence based on a white thought and psyche, right? But you have to deem everybody else to be inferior in their intellect. But not when it comes to you. You supposedly are superiors, but yet you said the world was flat. You got all this other craziness that I won't even get into. But that's just, you are the descendants of that. But if you go back to the descendants of the people of color, they were way more intelligent than any of your descendants prior before, now that you've stolen all their, knowledge and writings. And you know what I'm saying? And now have tried to advance it and now put your stamp that you're greater than them all. But in actuality, you're not. Still inferiority complex. That's why you have to do what you do. We just have to be real about it, So let's look at this Indian thing here, right? Let's take it into that science. Because, I see a lot of my brothers, they sit out here and they like to recite that, and they say they spend these expensive books and they get into this whole thing. But let me say something. Let me pull this up. Now, have you ever heard the quest for the new Adam? Have you ever heard of that? This is where this whole evolution is deriving from. The quest of the new Adam is because once they got into understanding the biblical, they knew for a fact there's no way that these people could be them. So they could not accept the fact that they're coming out of people color. So they had to come up with a new way how to recreate to give them their own distinction. Check this out. In the 18th century, when the West was seeking to free itself from the confines of Judeo-Christian thought, many authors recommended the ancient wisdom of China as an example for Europe. None of them, however, thought of locating the origins of mankind or all human knowledge in the celestial empire. India was another matter. The special and mysterious fascination of India has continued to make itself felt right up to our own times. Many an historic doctrine claim to derive from India. The Middle Ages and Renaissance did not look as far afield as this, since their knowledge of antiquity was confined to the Hebraic or Greco-Latin cultures. Nevertheless, it was the Bible itself which suggests that the origins of mankind might be discovered somewhere to the east of Judea. A pointer in this direction was provided by the description of Garden of Eden. Bounded by 4 rivers, one which was Euphrates. The migration of Abraham from Ur or the Chaldees started in the same area, but even more indicative was the story of the flood in which Noah's Ark was grounded on the heights of Mount Ararat in the Caucasus. These mountain figures which equal prominence in Greek legends, in which they were the scenes of several famous myths, while some Pythagorean tradition drew attention to countries even further to the east, since Pythagorean himself was reputed to have absorbed the wisdoms of both Persia and India. The origin of Homo sapiens was still being sought in those regions at the time when scientific reasoning, without yet discarding the truth, which claims to be revealed, was trying to come to the terms with them. Buffon elaborated a relative coherent theory according to which the first people worthy to be called by that name had emerged when the earth cooled off sufficiently 30,000 years ago in his estimation. Somewhere to the east of the Caspian Sea, this people merit out all our respect as creators of science and the arts and all the useful institutions. Furthermore, it was very wise. Later, other men, still ignorant, wild, and barbaric, had attacked and destroyed this civilization of Eden and plunged the whole of humanity into the night of ignorance once again. Only the Brahmins of India were able to preserve a flicker of the old learning. This anthropodicee, which was based on the speculation by the astronomer Cassini and Bailey, seemed to echo the old mythologies of the Golden Age and the Fall. Buffon tended to interpret biblical data in an allegorical manner. His great rival, Linnaeus, advanced views which confirmed more closely to the literal interpretation of the Bible, but which, far from being coherent, seemed to defy all logic. Starting with the story of the flood, he imagined a very high mountain emerging from the deep somewhere near the equator. The Arctic animals dwelt in couples on the snowy summit of this mountain, while the tropical animals, as well as the first human couple, lived around its base. With the emergence of a new lands, men and animals took possession of them, increased and multiplied. Linnaeus, however, did not trouble to explain how reindeers and polar bears could, without dying, have crossed tropical zones in order to go and multiple in polar regions. Without furnishing such exact details as Linnaeus, the scholars of Enlightenment, who were monogeneous for the most part, generally looked to the mountains as the cradle of the human race. This was certainly true of the geographers. In their view, the presence of seashells in all latitudes confirmed the hypothesis of universal inundation and therefore corroborated the story of the flood. Now, it was known that the highest mountains in the world towered over India and China, but the fact remains that tradition, perhaps influenced by the reluctance of the whites to admit affiliation to the yellow races, focused attention on the near side of the Himalayas and of Kashmir, not beyond them. Apart from these supposed scientific theories, a total different kind of argument was developed for the polemical purpose, with special reference to the origins of the culture and region or religion. This deist school, turning the biblical against itself, tried at first to prove that Moses had filched his revelation from Egypt. to imagine that the company of poor, contemptible Egyptianized slaves were intended in the divine counsel and wisdom as light of the Gentiles was for Thomas Morgan the same as supposing we speak with scorn that God was disappointed of his end and took as a wrong means as Moses himself. Now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. See, that's what he does. That's what he do. See, he was trying to, he's calculating, he's trying to find the things that will make you as a person who is not so researching, not trying to delve in, to dig, to try to get into the origins of things. And he says the highest mountains between India and China, he took India because he don't want to be included with the yellow man. And so he's going to use India around Kashmir, right? Trying to isolate, because again, remember the European calls him Indo-European, meaning he's deriving out of the Indian. That's why he's saying that the ones that he found in America was Indian, because they're going to be related to him. You dig? All right, let's keep going. Now, knowing this, what I just told you, because that's where this is coming from. They had to recreate the story to give validity to them trying to be the original. So they use the Bible in certain aspects to give, when they're talking about specific points. Then when they say when they found the Noah's Ark, this happened to be on Turkey around the Caucasus Mountain. Again, I don't put nothing past them. You recreated, did something, built something, and put something there, gave photos, gave a scenario, and you tell it everybody, so now everybody's going to believe it. Just like the Shroud of Turin, right? Right? That Shroud of Turin, right? So now you have that to validify or validate the fact that you're saying now that that so-called the North Ark, that it landed on the Caucasus Mountains and around Turkey, makes it that's where it had to originate. Come on, think about that, man. Think about that. Just because someplace landed don't mean that's where it started. Now, according to 40 days and 40 nights, if you had to traverse on water, according to that story, and this 40 days and 40 nights coming from which direction? What would make more sense? If you came from China and landed on to Turkey, or would it be coming from Africa, landing at Turkey, coming 40 days, 40 nights with current and drift? But you said, no. But where it is found, this is where it had to start. That ain't how the story started. The story started somewhere and eventually it landed there. But we know that's all farce. We know you made all that up. You understand? And let me show you something. There's something that just came out recently to show you that what I'm talking about. See, he will give validity to the Indians being in America, and then he's going to come back later because he has an agenda, and he's going to say this. Check this out. DNA research suggests mysterious collapse of Native American ancestors. I'm going to say that again. DNA research suggests mysterious collapse of Native American ancestors. Ain't that something? Now, all of a sudden now, the American Indian DNA is not going to be what in America. This is him. This is who he is. A new ancient DNA study booster account that European arrival in America's decimated indigenous population. An international team of scientists has sequenced mitochondrial DNA from skeletons and mummies of Native Americans ranging from 8,600 to 500 years ago. They compared this new data to the DNA of modern Native American population and found that the old sequence were mysteriously missing. This doesn't mean that all indigenous Americans died off, study lead author Bastian Lamas points out. there are still Native Americans alive today across both continents. But of the 92 archaic individuals that the team looked at, none of their mitochondrial sequence survived to the present day. It could have been disease, warfare, societal collapse, or some other catastrophic, Dr. Lamas tells the Christian Science Monitor. All the studies indicate is that something significant happened to reduce the genetic diversity of this population. But historical accounts suggest the European arrival coincided with a significant reduction of the population already living in South, Central, and North America. Estimates have ranged from around 50 to 90% of the population died off at that time. Even those low numbers, that an incredible calamity, John Walker, an archaeologist at the University of Central Florida, who was not part of the study, tells the Monitor. The study published Friday in the journal Science Advance wasn't about just one moment in the early history of the Americas. The research team also found clues into the initial peopling of the region. We knew that a Native American living today have a relatively low genetic diversity, Lamas says, meaning it's highly likely that sometime in the past they lost some of their genetic diversity in what we call a bottleneck. Was it because Europeans? Or was it because there are very early events that led to the peopling of the Americas, he says. According to Lamas research, a combination of both shaped Native American genomes, telling the tales of the peopling of America. Lamas and his team combined the genetic data with archaeological, geological, and other evidence to model what might have happened. The story goes something like this. During the last ice age, sea levels were significantly lower. At that time, there was large swaths of lands where the Bering Straits is now, between Alaska and Siberia. That region, called Beringia, formed a sort of land bridge connecting the two continents. The genetic data shows the most recent population divergence between Siberian and Native Americans to be 24,900 years ago, suggesting that around when people started moving into the far reaches of North America, these early Americans developed their own unique signature genetic lineage that persists among Native Americans today. But when they arrived, they would be greeted by humongous ice sheets that covered what is now Canada, so these first Americans hunkered down in Beringia for a while. What happened next has been an issue of debate among researchers. For decades, the predominant explanation among researchers was the Clovis first model, which suggests the Clovis people, a prehistoric culture known for their distinctive flute stone spear points, were the first to move south around 13,000 years ago. But what many archaeological finds have since shown that people were as far as Chile by 14,000 years ago. These mitochondrial DNA findings are more or less consistent with the archaeological data. Theodore Scher, an anthropologist at the University of Pennsylvania who was not part of the study, tells the Monitor in a phone interview, according to the genes, people started leaving Beringia around 16,000 years ago, like tracking along the Pacific coast where a corridor would have opened up. Genetic diversity greatly increased after that time, says Lamas, that suggests a significant population increase, and Beringia, cold, stark, and confined would likely not have supported a large population. As the people started moving south, some settled in groups along the way. As these separated groups established themselves, they too developed unique lineages. This model seems to fit very nicely. Dennis L. Jenkins, an archaeologist at the University of Oregon, who was not part of the study, tells the Monitor, right now it does not match what is commonly accepted among the majority of the colonization studiers. But he cautioned, the Clovis first model seems like a perfect fit at one time too. Does the DNA tell the whole story? No. Mitochondrial DNA is just a portion of the human genetics. These genes are passed only from mother to child, so represent only maternal lineage, says scientists. Furthermore, Lama says ancient specimens that the researchers can extract DNA from DNA are limited. In this study, most of the ancient individuals are from Bolivia, Chile, and Peru. So, he says, they may have been some kind of bias in our sampling. As such, the The conclusion that we have drawn from this data set may change in the future when we gather more data, he says. It's an ongoing story. Dr. Jenkins agrees that more research and more genetic data is necessary to fill out the picture. I think that DNA in archaeology is just going to get stronger as time goes on, and I would hope that more archaeologists would be thinking and sampling in such ways that we can explore the genetic evidence that around us all the time, he says. It's going to become really great tool for archaeology. Ancient DNA is critical for understanding these details because it provides us with a direct snapshot of genetic diversity in the past, which can be then used to infer details about human history, including estimates of past population, size, ancestor descent relationships, and population divergence. These are details which aren't necessarily obtainable from archaeological or paleoclimate data. Jennifer Raff, a biological anthropologist at the University of Kansas, was not part of the study, tells them out here in an email. Dr. Water adds, the use of DNA from pre-Columbian people is very innovative. It makes a lot of sense. And this research won't just inspire more ancient DNA research. Speaking as an archaeologist, I would see it as a reason to do more archaeological research to confirm their models, Walker says. Now, check this out. Now, they say that they got DNA research suggests mysterious collapse of Native American ancestors. A collapse. So there's somebody part in the Native American ancestor that no longer appears in their DNA to this day, but mysteriously collapsed, right? So you went to go further in south, down up in Chile, right, South America, right, to do studies over there, right? And they said, well, a lot of it is not here, but as we do more searching, then we will get to the bottom of this. I guess you will. Because eventually it's going to get back to Europe, because you're going to start finding mummies and skeletons, and you're going to start using that, knowing that's going to be European skeletons. I know y'all like that science, man. You like to think that till you, when I mean you, all you who are participating in science, till you have your own foundation, doing your own research, doing your own conclusion, your own archaeologist. When you're doing it all, then you can come to a conclusion. Because even in the way that, let's put it like this, if your education, right, do you know that they have to be, those books that go in these classrooms have to be okayed by the board? They have to fit a certain type of agenda. What makes you think that just because you went to college and that you're in there, you get a doctorate in the particular field of study, that the way that they taught you is still not going to make you come with a different result? Huh? What makes you think that? Y'all don't get them. You just think you know them. They telling you straight up. Because they telling you. Now they saying that the Native American is really not indigenous to the land. But they said they're going to find it. And when they get done finding, just like when they're going to get finding in Egypt, when in all the places, they're going to be south. And there's a reason why they went to South Africa and took South Africa. Because now you're starting to hear some of the brothers and sisters saying that the oldest people is coming from the South. But the white man been there longer before you figure that out. He been reconstructing. While you was not born and other people was sleeping and other people watching all this other shit, he over there reconstructing. Just like he died in them waters reconstructing the land. Just like where the place that they claimed that they said the mystery place called Mu, he down there doing it too. While you ain't paying attention, he's doing it. Huh? That's what he does. He's the mischief maker. He's the deceiving the nations to believe that he's going to make you believe his lie. And he's going to say, see, here's the proof. And you're going to be like, yep. That's right. He's right. Look, they proved it. Making you inferior. But really the inferior complex is him, not you. See? Because see, he took the biblical story and he reconstructed it so a way that it won't be It's not going to ever show a beginning of color. He took it, put it on the Caucasus Mountain, because everybody knows that Caucasian from the Caucasus. So right there, well, Abraham was the Noah's Ark was found on the Caucasus Mountain in Turkey. And guess what? Those people are the steep. This was all that little. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me show you something. Have you ever seen? Okay, you ever seen how they show? Right? It's funny how today in science they will show this diagram of this picture of the traversing of where the genetic markers are moving, how they migrated. Right? They'll show you a spot that's somewhere going in the south, right? Right? In Africa. And then it's going to migrate across and go over Arabia. They go up across, and then it's going to branch out, right? But yet they will tell you that according to what he just said, that on Turkey, Mount Ararat by the Caucasus Mountain, where Noah's Ark was found, this is the beginning. Yet now, and science wants to tell you that this evolution part, right? Because that's what he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you when you came out from out of Africa, you was a monkey. Or this so-called Homo sapien. But, hold on. We got a news break. Hold on. I got another story for you. Rudolph is trying to be a person who's trying to clear his conscience and try to reveal something that he says that people have been under the assumption for a long time, and especially black people in America. Black people in America who have had an inkling of something suspicious about something, but we just couldn't put our finger on what it is. Well, Rudolph decides to tell you that black people are human, Indian people are human, Asian people are human, but white people come from another planet. And they don't want to disclose it because if they do, they think they're going to be attacked. I don't know how that's going to happen when you have guarding all the military, the peopling, the machineries, the firearms. I don't know who's going to attack you, right? And you have made so many technological advances in weaponry, right? Stockpiling and, things of such of devastating effects upon a populace or a nation of people that I don't know, why would you be afraid to reveal it? Maybe that would just make things a little bit more easier for people to say the reason why you act the way you do. Now, I know there's going to be some white people say, I'm not like that. I ain't about that. I love all people or anybody. It's not by the color of your skin, it's by the content of your character. Sound great when it was said, sounds great today, but what we see versus what is said, the equations don't add up. But like me giving you a math problem. 8 plus 8 equals 16. But when you say, I'm not racist, I don't judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of your character, you have the equation of 8 plus 8, but you're not equaling 16. But it sounds good. It makes you appear to be a person that, outwardly who says things that seem to be legitimate. But Rudolph states, we are not human as the rest of the human race. The distinction between what he's saying versus the others. And that the historical people who come down from the north, they came from another planet, They were called the tall whites. And this here, as he states, is they came here in order to control the world. Huh? Isn't that about what's happening here? The problem is, in any nation, country, in this case, planets, it's always going to be the lower versus the upper. So let's just say if Rudolph is legitimate in what he's stating, that some of the white people who are now having this change of heart is realizing I'm not really standing for that whiteness because I think this has been a ploy all along. But the upper part of them is saying we're gonna run this till the wheels fall off. We ain't caring about what you thinking because you was never really one of us anyway. If you trace that gene, like Paul Mooney says, then this is what's going to happen, and you're not like Rudolph, who says I'm a German and Aryan. Many white people today, especially in America, may have language of Germany, may claim, like, have you ever seen that commercial that come on for the DNA, myfamilytree.com or whatever that is? And the dude said, I always thought I had Germans in the family. And then when I took the test, I come to find out I'm more Irish. Well, see, this is why a lot of you are losing your white card, because you was never fully white. You got too many intervenes of blackness that if you don't have a 30 seconds pure of whiteness, you're not considered white. Which means how many generations continually with no intervention before you can consider yourself like them. And those that are more in Europe are probably more not as mixed as those in America because of the so-called myth of what they call multiculturalism. And some white people will say, well, the Jews brought this to destroy the white man. Well, he may have been a facilitator in it, but you the one who was lustful and started to do all those things, because if you would have just kept it as the basis of just work and money, you would still be considered yourself pure. But no, you couldn't keep your Peter in your pants, huh? Couldn't keep peeing in the pants. And so you start to out here and be very vivacious and high libido when you're seeing all them beautiful sisters, huh? And there was no repercussions for nothing stopping you. So, hey, you was rolling in dice, and now y'all about to hit you about to hit them snake eyes, huh? So now you trying to reshoot again in there, hoping you gonna hit that 7-Eleven, even backdoor Little Joe, huh? You know what time it is. Everybody know what time it is. So, Rudolph states, we all stick together in order to control the other race. Is that true? Is it true? As I said earlier in this dissertation, how I told you that people have commandeered civil rights in America for their own agenda, stepping over, leaping over, jumping over the people who that whole civil rights was about. So is all people sticking together who are creating all these other facets of being able to get rights? Because when you really look at it and understand the historical aspect of it, there are poor whites. There have been plenty of them, because one thing they do not talk about in this land here is that the people who they were bringing here from Europe into the Americas were the pot liquor. They were the pot liquor of societies in Europe, and they brought them in in masses. I mean, that's what if anybody who's looking for an exodus, that was an exodus. The exodus was them flooding all the trash genetically into this country, and then they were taking this other genetics that was a good, strong, historical genetic, and then as time went on and miscegenation and multiculturalism, you're seeing the residuals of what we're seeing today. This is what we're seeing today. Rudolph says, I gotta tell you that we stick together, man. Don't think that this is by coincidence or by chance or happenstance, but it is what it is. And he said we stick together, particularly against the black race. Is it true? Do we see it globally? Is it something that you can actually see, or is it just my words that will be on some ears and be irritating and saying he's speaking a lot of nonsense, but in actuality, if you open your eyes and look, what do you see? Is that what we do see? But I know the pot liquor whites, that's not you. You never had power. You never came, and the only way to have gained it is trying to participate in the system. This is where patriotism comes, and you patriotic and dying for your country and believing that pulling yourself from your bootstrap and getting yourself into a certain class made you be a part of that upper echelon. But they know you were never. In actuality, you knew you weren't, but it made you feel better than looking down on the people who most likely were better than you too. Matter of fact, that's what that Bacon Rebellion was about, when they realized when they were going to let go of all the brothers and sisters and our ancestors of the time, that who had all the skills, because all the people were doing all the building and all the agriculture were the people of color. And so if they would have just maintained that to that time and to then, this is where I believe Booker T. Washington was on point. When he said, don't worry about trying to get yourself into political and government. What you need to do is continue what you know, build upon that, monopolize that, and guess what? We can control that, and they don't have to come see us. But no. We didn't want that because of the sickness that we felt denigrated, right? It's felt denigrated, and that we did not want to have that stigma of the past that a lot of the people who did the migration, because we also had an exodus in this land when the people from the South went north looking for a better life, is what they say when you hear even the immigrants who are now doing exodus and saying they're coming for a better life. There's been plenty of exodus, right? If you can't find that one in Israel, we can see modern today, but I don't know if these are the people of the book though, going forward. So this particular holding down, oppressing people of color that Rudolph is so eloquently putting down, is it what it is? Is it, can you go to every nation around the globe and realize that even though you may say a landmass that seems to be people who are dominant of the populace, but who are the people who are really in the machinations of government, orchestrating, facilitating, still may be a person of color? Because again, there's a secret history that goes back that a lot of people did not know or have not come to the understanding, is that even though you had two forms of people that were in Europe, right? Because some of them were also being transported not into America. It was the low class that was going to the Americas, but then they were taking another class that they were enslaving and bringing them over to the Muslims. Yeah. So those that came out of the schools and systems of that Muslim, these are the ones who was primarily knew and had a better education about things, and because that was where the higher learning was coming from during that particular period of time. So the potlickers of America, the ones who are now several generations, they've been here as long as some of us that's been here from the 1600s, 1700s, right? And so Rudolph is just trying to tell you. He's just letting you know that this, as a white man, we know. Because he keep telling you, white people are not human. White people, including him himself, they all stick together. They know the truth, and they don't want to admit it to you. But you're going to still have some people who are going to refute what's being said, regardless hearing it out of the mouth of the man himself. It's still going to deny it. Not going to accept it because Mr. Blows Your Mind, you on some bullshit. Mr. Blows Your Mind is letting you see what is being said. And it's letting more, nothing less. But see, that's how it goes. See, sometimes you can present stuff to people, it's right before their eyes, and guess what? They're still going to reject it. Because why? You don't want it to be true. And he even stated, when we have no good intentions with you, regardless to who you're marrying, having children with. He's saying that in the trenches of the scheme, of the plan, the intention is not going to be good in the outcome for you. We're not going to share our wealth with you. We're trying not to share the real knowledge because, again, we can see, is there a disparity? Disparity in the knowledge that the people who are running with technology versus the knowledge that you see people of colors and the fields that they're in. We may have sprinkles, like getting a ice cream and asking for sprinkles on it. And you know how they give you the sprinkles with the rainbow colors, like you get the orange and blue and white. Well, that's how the Nebuchadnezzar, that's what I call that. Then them scriptures talk about when Nebuchadnezzar took the choicest ones of Israel and changed their name and then made them be a part of his system. And then as time went on, they became just like them. Well, that's what they do with us. They take all our brightest and best, and then they offer them scholarships. And then now you got an allegiance to the person because they're going to say, well, see, you wouldn't know that if I didn't come give you this. So you need to come bring that and come work and facilitate with this, because those back there, they're never going to appreciate you. We're going to appreciate you. And see, once you get lost in that, you done lost and severed your connection, and you take your education and you give it back to the one, as Rudolph says, we have no good intentions with you. But he'll use your brain. He'll use your God-given gift, but he'll put it in his own system. So, is it true? So, as that next clip behind the show is vampires. Is it true? Is it? Is there something with the sun and the white people that don't mix? It's like oil and water. Some matter how you try to mix oil and water together, the oil is gonna, depending if the glass is all water, then the oil will rise to the top. But if it's more oil and there's less water, then the water gonna rise to the top. They don't mix. Something about them. So is what Rudolph says about them from another planet, which means their biology is not conducive to the planet, and that now that the planet and the sun is getting closer to the planet again, that these people are having a hard time existing, so that they're trying to get some kind of protection. Because I also read that they're flying this. The reason why they're supposedly doing all this chemtrailing is because they're supposed to be making a sunscreen around the planet so that it reflects the rays back up into the sky, so it's not beaming down on them. But it seems to not be working. It's not working. Why is it not working? Because you know why. Your arms are too short to box with the Creator. You're not going to admit it. You're never going to admit it. You see? And so, I'm just saying, man. Some people will say that it seems like you're gleaning and gloating about. I'm just saying that, in war, this is what I learned being a part of this society. And looking historically, in war, there's always going to be casualties of civilians. So whether you claim, and I'm not judging whether you're a good white person or not, but casualties of war is part of war. And if the Creator is having war with the people that you are by default associated with, biologically, family, nation, then some of you and plenty of you are going to be casualties of the war, whether you good or not, because when the shoe was on the other foot, plenty of casualties of color. We can't even fathom the masses of numbers. And you know what? This is a short span of history we're talking about. We're not talking about thousands of years. Let's just take from the time, let's just say from 1492 to the present date. Will you think that the numbers of masses of people who were killed in this newfound colonization global, how many people you think lost lives that were good colored people? So what makes you now that the retribution, or what I call righteous indignation, coming upon, what makes you think that for some odd reason that there will not be casualties of war when you're fighting against the Creator, and you per se may not be the one per se doing it, but you are going to be the beneficiaries of the insurance policy of what the Creator is bringing upon. And many of us will catch it because a lot of us are grasping, holding on, and want it to don't happen. And it's going to happen one way or another. You can only prolong the inevitable for so long. Am I race hating, or am I just telling what it is? It's up for you to say that. See, and that's how y'all get down. And I'm Mr. Blows Your Mind, your wideologist, bringing another one of these videos. Well, I see a lot of these comments in those sections, and they keep talking about, well, if the white man is going to be extinct, then this world is going to fall apart. See, they always want to try to tell you how good they are and that they're not associated with it. But then when they see that the facts are being laid out for them, you see how the rebuttal to the fact is, well, even if we're gonna go, well, you guys won't be able to survive without us. What makes you think that the Creator isn't raising up that which is going to continue his? Wait a minute, this world was created by you. That's the problem y'all got. You think that everything is about you. This is where you, man, boy, It's like somebody took a bolt and opened your head up and threw that bolt in that head of yours, and you walking around and that mug is jiggling around in your head, and every time it's touching a certain spot in your brain, it cutting off certain aspects so that it's skipping that part of that understanding. And that's when you be saying these crazy things, talking about something. If white people aren't here, you ain't been here that long. Technology ain't something. It's only. Okay, hold on. Let me say this. Let me say this. White people, ask yourself, if somebody have taken people globally and subjugated them to only be laborers, and take the choicest ones out of there and make them work in towards your agenda, then how can you say to people that if you're no longer here cannot suffice and make civilization progress because they never been able to? You understand? Or maybe y'all don't understand that. But the thing is, you're not seeing the renaissance in people of color globally. You think that the internet, you created it, which is a lie, and that somehow you are the greatest thing ever, and that your demise is the demise for the whole planet. That's how you think. That's how sick you are. But the point is, if I can get rid of, let's say a person is ill with cancer, and this person, right, was athletic and intelligent, and it had a lot of gifts. Had a lot of gifts. And then it got cancer. And cancer started to debilitate the person, to subside a lot of his abilities, and it was deteriorating all of his skills. So, a cure was found. And this person was given the cure to get rid of the cancer. What you think gonna happen when the cancer is rid from the person and the person can now restore back his health to itself? What you think gonna happen is this person is going to start inclining back to the person it used to be? Is that what you're thinking? That this person that was who it was before then became cancered, and then the cancer removed, and then it can now restore itself? The cancer is gone. The cancer is being relieved. The cancer is fighting for its life to hold on. Because once it's gone, that person, the people, will be healed, and they will restore their regenerative powers and mind, and they will do things, and the books will never speak about you like the books don't speak about the people of today or the past. They will be like a flash in a pan. You'll get a paragraph about probably how bad you were. This is MrBlowsurmind. Gehazi. Greed for a selfish gain proved to be the downfall of Gehazi. This was in connection with the healing of Naaman in Syria. Though Elisha had refused to accept a gift from Naaman for the healing of his leprosy, Gehazi coveted a gift and reasoned that it was only proper to receive this. Therefore he ran after Naaman, and in the name of Elisha asked for a talent of silver and 2 changes of garment, on the pretense that this was for 2 young men of the sons of the prophet who had just arrived from the mountainous regions of Ephraim. Naaman gladly gave him not just 1, but 2 talents of silver, as well as 2 changes of garments, and had 2 of his attendants carry the gift for Gehazi. At Ophel, Gehazi took the gift from the hands of the attendant, dismissed them, deposited the gift in the house, and then presented himself empty-handed before Elisha. even denying that he had gone anywhere when asked, "Where did you come from, Gehazi?" As a result, Gehazi was stricken with leprosy, so his greed, coupled with his deceptiveness, cost Gehazi his privilege of continue to serve as Elisha's attendants, besides bringing leprosy on himself and his offspring.